Let's repeat some of these things. What do we mean by the invisibility of nature? Invisibility of nature refers to undervaluing or overlooking the true value of nature in policy making. This is what very often happens because it's simply so difficult to measure the true value of nature. Why is there a need to respond to these invisibilities? It's needed because we need to address ongoing biodiversity loss and ecosystem degradation that ultimately impacts on human well-being, and to assist decision makers to recognize the value of ecosystem services in order to make more informed decisions. Let's define ecosystem, biodiversity, and ecosystem services again. Ecosystem. The ecosystem is the combined physical and biological component of an environment. So it's everything that surrounds us. It's the air that we breathe, the trees around us, everything that we can see, that we can feel, all the matter that surrounds us is our ecosystem. Biodiversity. That is the diversity of life within a given ecosystem. Diversity of life refers to different types of plant and animal species. And ecosystem services, as you know, are the benefits that people obtain from ecosystems. What is biodiversity loss? Biodiversity loss is the decline of genetic diversity and distribution and abundance of species diversity. So basically the decline of biodiversity, the loss of ecosystem structures, and or the impairment of ecological functions. Ecosystem degradation is a persistent reduction in the capacity to provide ecosystem services. Obviously, biodiversity and ecosystem degradations are phenomena that we want to avoid because they will ultimately lead to a decrease in our human well-being, because we lose ecosystem services that contribute to our well-being. What are the key drivers of ecosystem degradation and biodiversity loss? The underlying causes are population size, that is population growth. You know that the world population has been constantly growing in recent centuries. It's already more than 7 billion at the moment, and is projected to be more than 9 billion people. So naturally, whenever there are more people in a given ecosystem, there will be more pressure on ecosystem resources, because the amount of environmental resources stays constant, whereas the number of people living in that ecosystem grows. So there are fewer ecosystem and environmental resources available for a higher number of people, so that increases the pressure on these environmental resources. But it's not only about the size of the population, it's also about the lifestyle of people. What we can observe is that there's an increasing urbanization in many countries in the world, which leads to air pollution, which leads to land conversion, and so on. We also consume many more goods which we did not consume in the past. We produce industrial products, we eat more dairy products instead of vegetables, and all of this puts pressure on environmental resources. Of course, governance and policy is also a driver. Governments can actually mediate the effect of population growth and lifestyle changes on environmental resources. either in a positive or in a negative way. The intermediate drivers, which are basically caused by these three factors, the intermediate drivers of environmental degradation are land conversion and habitat loss. So natural land is being lost because urban areas increase, more areas are needed for agricultural production, and so on. Also the overexploitation of natural resources, as, for example, caused by overfishing of oceans. Then we have pollution. Air pollution is a very visible example of that. Invasions of alien species, which is a phenomenon which has been exacerbated by globalization. There's much more movement between countries, even between continents, and sometimes invasive alien species who have not been in a place before, put a lot of pressure on an existing ecosystem in a specific country by being in competition with existing local species. And we have climate change as a very prominent example. Climate change, due to lifestyle changes, due to population growth, industrial pollution, and so on, is a key driver of climate change. And climate change puts more pressure on environmental resources due to an increased global temperature, but also an increased prevalence of extreme weather events such as typhoons and so on. What are the key reasons to end the economic invisibility of nature? First of all, the costs and risks of business as usual are too large to ignore. If we continue to degrade our ecosystem, we will have to pay the price for that, because we will lose ecosystem services which actually contribute to our own well-being. Business as usual can also exacerbate poverty. Economic solutions actually exist across policy and business, which begin by valuing nature. So actually, very often, there are alternative ways of doing things. Take, for example, energy production. Energy production traditionally has been mostly based on coal and gas. Today we have the option to replace these non-renewable energy sources by renewable energy sources such as solar energy and wind power. So there are alternatives available. The point here for environmental valuation is that we make the value of nature visible so that decision makers understand that using environmental friendly technologies will generate a real benefit for our society. And last but not least, is a key reason is to realize the productive and employment potential of environmental protection. Sometimes it is argued that environmental protection has a negative effect on the economy because it's costly and jobs will be lost. But actually there is also a productive and employment potential of environmental protection. You can see that in the United States and Europe, for example, today, where the solar and the wind energy sector has created 10,000 of new jobs. So the green economy can also be an important part of the overall economy and replace more traditional sectors of the economy.